Hey people, they got our history so twisted. I have a hard time titling my videos to be truthful, but to reflect of what people would recognize. And so this is about the 23rd Psalm, but it comes from much farther back. It actually comes from Lord Yami. Everybody knows it. It's titled "The Lord is My Shepherd." And I remember when I was about 12 years old and in Aunt Judy's Sunday school class, there were 6 of us. And so we had to draw up this some posters to put in the church, during Sunday school. And there was 6 of us, and she thought I was kind of smart. So she put this 6th line on me. She thought that I would be able to express it. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of Yahweh unto perpetuity forever. Well, I'm never going to try to say that again. But this is Lord Yama right here. If you look at this this final K here, like all the final letters, there's a reason that it looks more like a D than it does the K. If you look at the top of it, the difference between the D and the R is how it hangs over here. And it looks like the D that represents the door. But this is the go-to. And this is Lord Yami. Yami. The final M is an S. And in French, after a consonant, the IS, we silence the S, as in Paris and Denis. And this is Yami. Lord Yami. And so this is the go-to. Anytime the priests are trying to run the evil spirit out, this is where they go to. This is what they be preaching at you when you throw up the devil. So everybody who thinks that my translations are coming from the devil, I'm going to read this so many times during the making of this movie that there's no possible way you're going to prove your case. But it talks about a psalm of David, Yahweh my shepherd, not shall want. In pastures green, he makes me lie down beside the waters still. And he leads me, my soul he restores, and leads me in the paths of righteousness for sake of his name. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, no, I will fear evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. And you prepare before me a table in the presence of my enemies. You anoint with oil my head, my cup runs over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of Yahweh, Lord Yami, unto perpetuity forever. And so the reason I read that is so when I read about Lord Yami here, you're going to recognize everything that come out of there. Lord Yami is the Lord of the river. And oh yeah, she was hot. She let her titties just hang on out there. Yeah, I'd have worshipped Lord Yami too. She had them big childbearing hips and had a couple of little gremlins running around with her. And so she's known as Yamuna and was Yami in the earlier text. She was first Yami and later become the calendar. And they don't call her a lord, but she was the twin sister of Lord Yama, the god of death. And she's associated with the deity of Krishna and one of his consorts. And she played an important role in Krishna's early life as a river. And according to the Hindu scriptures, bathing or drinking in her waters removes sin. And often paired with that of Ganja. Oh, that's another one of my favorite gods. And so Natalie Purana describes Yamuna as black in complexion, and that's where that Kali in the calendar comes from. Kali is the black, and she's standing on her mount, the tortoise, and so the tortoise is the calendar of the moon represents, holding a water pot in her hand, and known as the beautiful maiden standing on the banks of the river. And her parents were gods. Her father was the sun. And her mother was one of the earliest goddesses in the Hindu pantheon. Was a daughter of Brahma, the first creator god. And also known as the clouds. So her parents was the sun and the clouds. And so that would have to do with rain, evaporation. The sun evaporates the waters to the clouds, the regeneration of the waters, the purification and regeneration of waters, the rain, which in Hebrew, the word for that would be mother. And some of her other siblings was the twins, divine doctors, and the planet Saturn, Shani. And she was described as the sun's favorite child. And so the story goes that her mama was unable to bear her husband, the sun's heat, and would close her eyes in the presence. And the sun felt insulted and said their son would be known as Yama, as restraint. Yama, that was her brother, twin brother, Yama. She tried to keep her eyes open, but flickered them again, and so the sun told her that their daughter would be Yamuna. And they'll say this name, Kalindi, may be derived from her association with Yama, the lord of death and darkness, as Kala. But the rest of the story explains it plainly. And they say the waters used to be clear, but it was when Sati died, Shiva wandered the whole universe, ever thinking of his wife Sati, and he jumped into the Yamuna River to overcome the sorrow, and the waters then turned black. And O'Flaherty says that Yama and Yani are a divine pair of creator deities. Yama, destruction and creation. And Yama is depicted as the Lord of Death, and Yama is said to be the Lady of Life. And so they tell you from Oxford, this Lord, they say it has a Germanic origin, which they don't know what it was, and made it to the Old English as a half weird. Somehow that turned into the loaf word and Lord, and compare with lady. And so that's a crock of shit. And the same as this lady. They'll say it come from an Old English half or loaf, a halfage, dough, became lady day. Well, there's another crock of shit. But the Hindu word for Lord is a Bhagavan. And, like a butterfly and a flutterby, the B and the V, they turn around, And a Bhagavan is a vagabond. And when you see a vagabond, most likely they'll have a bag on. They'll be toting a bag on their back. That tells me that the lords weren't pinned down. They were travelers. They didn't have a home. And so, Yama was the Lord of Death. Yami is the Lady of Life. And Yama is fire, and Yami is earth. And so these twins, their festival is the booby. The milk from the heavens, the booby. And there's a big story of her association with Christian, many stories about it. When Christian was a baby and his father was crossing the river, and he asked Yami to make a way for him to cross the river, and she created a passage. She divided the waters. And this was the first time she saw Krishna, who she marries in later life. So Yami wanted to touch the feet of the baby, which she did at deeper depths of the river, and as a result the river became very calm. He stilled the waters. But the biggest clue here is when the death of her brother Yama was the first mortal to die. As there was continuous daytime at the start of creation, it was always day, there was never a night. The sun never went down. And Yami was unable to understand the lapse of time, since there was no time. It was just a constant day. And the gods created night, separating the 2 days, so that Yami understood that time was passing. Yami is time passing, and slowly recovered from her sorrow. Our mother of sorrows. Yami is thus further described as an association with earth, relating her to the goddess of graveyards and sorrow. So if we look at this word that I call the Lord Yama, they say it means unto perpetuity, forever here. And this Lord, it only comes up these 3 times here, and it's always followed by this Yami. Lord Yami, forever the days. And here, the Lord Yami is forever age. And here, Lord Yami, the long age. age, time, age, days. And so most of the time Yami comes up, they're going to tell you it means days or waters. Yami is the days and the waters. Most of the time, forever, perpetually, they'll say that's owls. But this is Yami's. The first time it comes up here was with Cain of time. In Genesis 8, it's days. It's days. And so Yami was the days divided. It was all one day until they created the nights to create different days. As I tell you, the gods' names start with A. And so this reads several different times, but there's one time you're reading this, and this is in the beginning, Brahma yell. That's how creation was made, because Brahma yelled. And the earth was formless and void, and darkness over the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. The the Yamis. And here they'll call the day the Yum. It's the juice. They call it the Yum. And the waters, the Hemis. The Hemis are the two halves. Hemis. And just the water, is the Mies. The Mies of Mies. The waters. The waters. Between the Hemis. Between the two half spears. The Hemis. And you see all the different words they have for waters, that's what they have in them, in the waters, in Hemis, in the Mies, in me. And it'll go all the way down to the base word of just, the Mies, and Yah, ancient word for the God, Yami, the God of waters. In Genesis 3, to offer, to call the Yami. The days, and the days hijack your days, all of your life. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all of Yami, the Yami hijack. Here it doesn't have the K. Be vite, to invite you, the Lord of days, of Yamis. So you might read this, invite you, lark, the days, lark, to play all the days. And this unto, they're getting this from the L. And so arc, every time arc comes up, they'll just say it means a measurement, of measure the days. It's a length, an arc, a length. And so where they get this, all the days of your life, when you're reading it with this, the upper mark here, it's the KL and then backwards, the IM, to climb, Yimi, to climb the days, to get older, to climb the days, Haya. So this starts with ak, or possibly add, had, we don't know what that means. All we know is this means knowledge or power, and the cause to give. The knowledge give. And then the line says, read this backwards, and it's the KATH, the catch. To act, the catch of which side, or dip wing. And call, KAL, call, not all, but select a few of them. To call Yami, the days, higher. And use of it they, and I will dwell, to USE, the use, and V, the use of, and then the mark underneath the B is IT, the use of it, and then underneath, that's going to give it a EY, the use of it they, and I will dwell, and higher use of it they, by vite, invite you. L, the gods, arc, the length of days. And so the gods of the moon are always going to be women, because, the moon controls the woman's cycle. And if you read between the lines on that Yami, you'll see it talks about that. You got to read between the lines and break all the gods' names down. So this reads several different ways, and I'm going to read it the easiest and most basic. I'm just going to read straight through, and only when I see a point inside of a letter, then I'll grab the vowel point underneath it, and if there's not one, I'll double that letter up. But this doesn't mean a Psalm of David. What this means is from, cut, from, where. You know, this is the ancient city of Ur. It means where. And so it means from, cut from where, and it means that I stole this from somewhere else, you know. And if you read it with the bottom markings, you know, it tells you to read this again. And so it's, you know, from, cut from, where, more. There was more there. But I'm just going to read it, you know, the first time through, and maze them where, you know, from, cut from where leaded, L-D-U-D, where it was written. You know, I've taken this part from where it was written. And you know, this isn't David. There's another word for David. There's no I here. This is an E point. But it's from, cut from where leaded. I stole this from somewhere else, and maybe just a piece of it. And so it's you, the royal axer. This is like ask her, the asker. You want something, you ask for it. A-C-H, you know, A-C-H, to axe, S to axer. You, the royal asker. And so the dot and the B is going to tell me to grab this point. And so it's B, B-E, you know. And be not these air, be its in. Be not these air, you know, these, T-H-E-S-E. Be not these air, be its in. All my men hooten elling, E-L-N-I-I-N-G-N-I, hooten elling. And so all my men hooten elling. That's you know, when I'm on the job and in the city and everybody's on the roof hollering at some girl, you know, and all my men hooting hailing, hooting calling. And, you know, so these green pastures, you know, that's the smell of flowers. And be not these air, be its in. All my men hooting hailing. And Nipsey, you know, drunk. And Nipsey is of by knowing. In Mowgli side if limb on shame too. And so in Nipsey is of by knowing. And drunk is of by knowing. Just knowing it's there makes me feel good, you know. And Nipsey is of by knowing. In Mowgli. And that's Mowgli as in Jungle Book Mowgli. And I can't find what that word means. But it possibly means in the path or in paths. You know, B is in. And then from Og. And an Og is a foot. O-G is a foot or a shoe. In from Og. And then grab the vowel point. You know, I, Og-ally. In footly. In the foot. Make a lie. The side if, to decide if. The limb, you know, a limb, a fork in the road. The limb on name to. And Nipsey is of in knowing. In Mowgli side if limb on shame to. You know, on shame to is your name. Whatever you did, that's what they're going to call you. If you got caught screwing somebody in the back of a dump truck in high school, you're going to be known as dump truck all your life. You're shamed. That's your name. In the limb on shame too. You know, the dot in the G here can tell me to grab this line. And they say it's an A, but I think this line is the O. And it means goes. And goes walk. And you know, I tell you that the key, the K-A-Y in the Greek, you just replace it with the Vav. And it looks like the same here in the Hebrew. You know, the dot in the K here tells you to grab the point. You can see the walk here is just a A-L-K. It's missing the W. And it looks like the same as the Greek as the Hebrew. And goes walk by, B, and then the two dots, the Y, by Gaia, by the earth. By Gaia at Solemwet, all alone. And goes walk in the earth all alone in Solemwet. Lo, and lo is not no, lo is beware. In lo air, and then AR, low error. And, although, beware of the error of WAT, of what. And then the point underneath, to, of what to. In low error of what to amid is. What to amid amongst us. To amid is, but. And then read the K over here. To come Santa, and that's where your word Santa Claus come from. And Santa is usually a word that means, and I woke from my dream, it's the send to, it's what comes to you when you're sleeping. The Santa Claus, it doesn't come until you're sleeping. And low error of what to omit is of it comes Santa, it hema, it. That after the first T, the ET, it's bleeding, it hema, it bleeding in coming. What's sent to, it's hema in coming, it's blood in coming. And then two O's here, read the one down here. And so it's two orc of place, and then inflict, in FLK, rot, inflict rot. And two orc of place inflict rot. And so orc is the place of fantasy, orkin in your dreams. And two orc of place inflict rot. Selene, that's the dream god of the moon. That's the one that sends you your dreams that come from the moon. The Selene nigged. Nigged is the one that's actually doing the work of turning the jinn, the one pushing. Of Selene nigged, the Zari dice. The Zara dice sent. There's two S's, and the dot up top is telling me to grab the E. So the Zara dice, the Czar is, the unchecked ruler, and the redice, the D-I-S-E, and then a S-E, the sent to. The Zaradice sent to. And Zaradice is like a paradise. A pair is the house, and a dice is that fantasy place of the orc, of the Santa. And so a Zaradice isn't just the house, the fantasy place, but it's of the unchecked ruler's redice sent to, of his fantasy place. Ves's men, Rosie, Koozie, Re-Y, or the invests men and fills men of the rosy, of the red, Koozier, the Koozer, why, the Koozer who, the red Koozer who. A koozie isn't a cup. A koozie is that snuggly thing that fits around your beer that keeps from getting hot. But if you're putting a hot cup of coffee in, it's what keeps from getting cold. The red koozie who. That's your red-headed woman. That's not my head, my cup runs over. That's the fantasy in sin of the red-headed koozie, the rosy koozie, the koozie her who. And so that gives us a better idea of what hack means. Hack is when you work your way into it. You hacked in the power given, the knowledge given. The hack catch of. Which cider dipuni? Puni, that's a Spanish word for some poontang. Which cider dipuni? Call Yama, to call the days high. Call the day higher. The use of it. The use of it, tai, T-A-I, or T-E-I. The use of it, tai. By vite, invite. By vite you, the lark of Yami's. By vite you of the length of the day. All day long. So if you miss it, this anointing oil, my head, my cup runs over, and it looks like it says semen. That's exactly what it says, and it's in the Zara Dicent, the Ves semen, to fill the semen. And so my men is same as we say it today, my guys. Hey doc, how are my guys? What's the count on my guys? The same is up here when it was talking about all my men hoot and holly. It's not my employees, it's my guys. All my men are hooting. It done woke my men up. And so I would read all this one more time real fast and put it all together. But the fix I got from my program, it ain't working. It's really locked up right now. But I'm sure everybody can get this. And now that I read all through all of it, I see a couple other words that I want to go back and change now that I got. But yeah, you can pretty much see what it's talking about. And the entire Bible's written like this. It's got a story on top to grab a 17-year-old boy's attention. But then it reads 2 more times following these directional marks on the top and bottom, and possibly more than that. I just figured out 2 more of the times, and that's where it has all the codes. And it has all your scientific chemistry and all your battlefield and psychology knowledge hidden inside there. And that's why all the extra dots you see under here. And like I said, I don't read any of them unless there's a mark the first time through. I don't read them unless there's a mark inside of the letter, and that tells me to grab the vowel points. And if there's no vowel points, it tells me to double that letter up.
Don't forget. I won't forget.
Alright, I'm going to cut this off here. Good day.